Well, today we begin a two-part report on balding, why men lose their hair, and what, if anything, can be done about it. Here this morning to help us clear up the confusion about hair loss and hair transplants is Dr. Shelly Friedman of the Institute of Cosmetic Surgery. Dr. Friedman, good morning.
Good morning, Matt.
Let's talk about some of the things guys are always saying about losing their hair. One, that they have to look at their father or their grandfather to know if they're going to go bald. True?
No, actually, it can come from either side of the family. It can come from the mother's side or the father's or both. You could get the curliness from one side and you can get the hereditary potential for hair loss from the other.
Could you have a father who goes bald and not go bald yourself?
Definitely.
All right. What about the people who say, hey, if I can make it to the age of 40 without losing my hair, I'm out of the woods. It's not going to happen to me.
You will continue to lose hair all the way till the day you die. So that's an old wives' tale also. Certain people will not start to lose their hair until they're 40 and then will go bald by the time they die.
You're bumming out a lot of people out there. Let's talk about, is there anything you can do of all the technology, and I'm talking about ointments and treatments, that sort of thing, to stop or slow down the process?
The only thing that's been FDA approved is Rogaine or minoxidil, and that is approved to grow hair, although it's been very disappointing. But one thing we have found is it has slowed hair loss. It has not stopped it, but it has slowed the hair loss.
So when people have gotten to the point where they've got the bald spot or it's getting worse, they tend to look at one of a couple of things. Transplants are very popular. What exactly is a transplant?
A transplant is where we take hair from the back of one's head in an area that's got a potential never for falling out, taking that hair and transplanting it up in areas which have fallen out.
How does that differ from an implant?
An implant is where you actually are taking synthetic hairs, something synthetic that's not alive, not from your own body, and implanting it into the area. And as a splinter, your own body starts to try to break it down and try to kick it out, and that's exactly what's going to happen with implants.
When we're talking about transplants, though, we tend to talk about micro-transplants and macro-transplants. One, if you've seen guys who've had these, there are times you can walk past them and say, wow, it's very obvious. Which is more successful?
Both are very successful for growing hair, but the thing is now, we know we can grow hair. What we want to do now is make it look natural. And so what we do is we have micrografts, which are 1 to 3 hairs. We have mini grafts, which are basically 4 to 6 hairs. And then we have the old-fashioned graft that you discussed earlier, and that's 8 to 15 hairs.
And those are the ones that tend to look somewhat clumpy in the scalp and are very recognizable.
The ones that give more of a cornrow or a picket fence appearance. You,
and you're not embarrassed to say this, have had the procedures. You had, though, one that you were not satisfied with at an early age. Is that true?
Yes. When I first started, when I was 25 years of age, I had my first transplant, and it didn't do well. And so that's what actually got me interested in becoming a hair transplant surgeon. At the time, I was a psychologist. And because of that, my interest got bigger and bigger and larger, and I decided to read everything I could get on it.
And I'm looking at you, and again, with a critical eye, and what you have on the top of your head right now is very natural looking. How many procedures, how long did it take you to achieve that?
I've had 10 procedures, and as I lost more and more of my hair, I went back and had more done. And as you can see, all this is transplanted, and if I hadn't, I'd be bald from here all the way back to here.
People talk about transplants. They also talk about a hairline transplant to go along with the transplant. What does that mean?
Well, that's something I devised where a person could actually have just the hairline done, just 1 inch of width of hairline, and then they can put a hair attachment or a hairpiece behind that, so that they wouldn't have to go through having all the procedures done.
And that way the toupee that you would put on the top of your head normally doesn't have that very harsh line in the front that is a telltale sign.
Exactly.
How much does this hurt, doctor, what you had done?
It doesn't hurt at all.
That sounds very, but you're talking about sticking things surgically into your scalp. It has to hurt a little.
It's just like when you go to the dentist. You're numbed up. Once you're numb, you don't feel a thing.
And how much would what you've had done cost over the 10 procedures?
Typically, doctors either charge per graft or per surgery. And typically, the type of thing that I had done probably would run around $25,000. As
in other things, are there doctors who are artistically inclined at this versus doctors who are surgically inclined and don't make you look as good?
Well, one half of my work is repairing other doctors' work. So that should tell you right there.
So buyer beware.
Yes.
Dr. Friedman, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, it's no